you are not hitting your goals because you are not planning properly. And you're also not executing. But that's a video for another day, okay? Today we're just going to be talking about how you are planning incorrectly, and that's probably one of the reasons why you're not hitting those goals you set. Execution is like 80% of the equation, but a small fraction, but still equally a huge important part of the equation is planning adequately. And baby girl, it seems as though you are not doing that. In fact, there is actually no reason as to why you should even pick up a pen and paper or a digital planner and start planning without knowing these 3 things. So in terms of planning, I'm setting the tone here. This is a preliminary initial video as to what you should kind of consider when you're planning, and this could also be the reason why you find that like you're stagnant in I guess your life or career or whatever aspect it is. This could very well be one of the reasons why you are remaining stagnant, or you are twiddling your thumbs when you're trying to plan. And yeah, I'm gonna very quickly outline 3 reasons why and 3 things that you can do about them actively. And yeah, it's just very preliminary. So the first thing, and arguably the thing that sounds the weirdest, is planning to plan. You may call me extra, you can call me whatever you want, but planning to plan really saves time. Planning to plan is essentially just carving out some time, blocking out some time every day, every week, etc. to plan ahead. For example, for me, that looks like when I'm planning my following week, I usually do that on a Sunday. So I just know there's a block Friday evenings at 6 p.m. where I'm just planning for the following week. Or in terms of the day before, you can block out time, and this is where habit stacking comes in, where you can kind of like block out time, let's say after you finish doing your skincare routine, but before you go to bed, you sneakily sneak in this habit of planning for the following day. And if you don't know what habit stacking is, I just call it sneakily adding in a new habit that you want to implement into existing habits. Idea is that it's easier to add in new habits into, let's say, a chain of existing habits. So for example, in the morning, I know there are some things that are just automated in my life, like going to have a shower. I don't think about it, I just wake up and go, and it's just that easy. The second thing I do usually after I shower is obviously get ready, etc., and then go downstairs and get some bottles of water. These are things I do not think about, they just happen every single day. Instead of me saying, okay, I want to implement a new habit of reading the Bible every day, instead of me saying, okay, cool, every day this week at 5 a.m. I'm going to read the Bible, habit stacking would instead encourage me to add in this new habit of reading the Bible and slot it in within existing habits that I have, such as waking up and having a shower. I then, before I go get my bottles of water, I then read the Bible and then go get my bottles of water and then continue my day like that. So yeah, this is a good example, I guess, of habit stacking, where just after you do your nighttime routine and before you sleep, you slot in 10 minutes maximum just to plan your following day. And that's essentially what planning to plan is. It's just knowing that every Sunday at 6 p.m. you spend even just 10 minutes, to be honest, to plan your following week. You know, every day before you go to sleep and after you do your nighttime routine, you carve out 10 minutes to plan your following day. You know, around 3 to 7 days, maybe this is just like my case, before the new quarter starts, you start planning what are the goals for the next quarter. What do I need to do? What do I fall short of in this quarter and in this month, and what can I how can I make it better for the following ones? Just basically blocking out time to actually plan, because if you don't, you're never ever gonna find the time to do it, one. And secondly, especially for like daily plans, this can really make up the difference between you having 3 extra hours in your day, regardless if you wake up at the same time and sleep at the same time. Just by planning the night before, you can still save yourself at least 3 hours. I say that because when you don't plan your days, the amount of time you lose scrolling on social media, because a 10-minute scroll will turn easily into 45 minutes. You will end up as well during that day now trying to plan, sit down for 20 minutes and trying to plan, okay, what do I need to do for the rest of the day? What have I done so far? But at the same time, you have work calling you, you have this happening, you have life just going on. So it's good to just get into a place of peace and solitude where nothing is going on and plan in advance for the next day. You can save yourself so much time. 3 social media scrolls, 4 social media scrolls, 5 social media scrolls in a day. You can still do that if you want, but as long as you limit it the day before to a certain time, like maybe 15 minutes during this break or 20 minutes during that break. But if you just find yourself willy-nilly just freestyling your day, that you don't even put a time on how long you're going to spend scrolling on social media. You will just do it for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. But my point is, you can save so much time by simply just planning the day before. And I hope that people don't see this and think, oh my gosh, Grace is saying that you can't have any time to yourself and you have to plan to every single hour. No, what I'm saying is you slot in your breaks. Maybe for you that's at 1 p.m. and then another break at 3 p.m, another break at 5 p.m, whatever it is, but put it in a plan so you're just not wasting time. Because that time that you keep wasting, maybe you thought it'd be 15 minutes that you'd have on social media, that turns into an hour, and then you do that 4 times in a day. Just try and realize or understand how that can amass into so many hours in 1 week, and then into a month, and whatever it is. And then now you find yourself that you've just wasted so much time, and you look back and you think, what did I do? And not only do you not know, you don't even have a record because you weren't planning. You don't have a record of what you're even doing. So yeah, please just plan to plan. Trust me, it will save you time tomorrow. It will save you time in the following week. It will save you time in the month. It will also make you feel less anxious as well, because you know, like when you're in the thick of it, like let's say you have a very, very busy day and it's very overwhelming and just, you know, just life happens or whatever. You don't have a plan, baby. You don't even know what you're doing. You feel all the more overwhelmed. You feel so much more anxious because you had probably set out on the week before that next week that you'd get this project done, or this week you'd try and start learning a new course or whatever, and now you're in the thick of that week and you're feeling overwhelmed. You're like anxiety ridden because you've not managed to do what you needed to do. But if you had just set a plan whilst you was calm, when no one is trying to reach you the night before, you're just calm, you know, you're in your own space, you can have some, like, you know, space to think. It just makes it so much more easier. Do not try and plan in the thick of your day, like when things are going on and people are trying to call you and the city is bustling and it's hustling and it's no, do it before. Some peace and solitude. You're less anxious, you're a bit more calm, you're a bit more relaxed. Yeah, it'll save you time, it'll save you anxiety. So the second thing is you need goal-centered plans. There are 2 things that I typically pick up a lot. So basically on my Instagram, I show like my daily plans and stuff like that. And a lot of people are very confused as to how to plan adequately. And things that I've picked up so far, people are not creating goal-centered plans. They know what they need to do in terms of like what they need to do for work, the errands they need to run, etc. And they feel like they're so structured and they're so disciplined, but then a couple months later they're like, okay, if I have been planning, I've been keeping my life very structured, I've been planning weekly, I've been planning daily, I've been disciplined enough to follow through on those plans as well, but nothing in life has seemed to change. Yes, you did the smart thing by planning your week and planning your month, but what you didn't do is necessarily plan smart. You didn't necessarily think about your wider goals and then implement them into your smaller plans, your weekly plans, monthly plans, your quarterly plans. And that is where a lot of people are going wrong. And it's fine, like, don't worry about it. It's a very quick fix. It's something that you can quickly fix tonight if you want. If you don't have goal-centered plans, you will either be twiddling your thumbs, not knowing what to plan for tomorrow, for the next week. You'll find yourself in this trap and this loop where you are planning and you are being disciplined, but you're still stagnant. Nothing has really, really changed in your life. And that's because there's no wider goal encompassing your wider plans. I guess it's kind of sad as well. There's a sad like element to it, because it's like, I guess you'll always be engaging in wishful thinking, saying or thinking like, oh, I want to achieve X goal by the end of the year. But then you don't get there because your plans don't consider or don't correspond with those wider goals. But it's cool, we can sort this out. You don't want to get to a point where just being structured is your focus. Your focus actually does need to be having a goal-centered plan, and then all the other stuff like being disciplined and automating these things and making a routine out of this then bears that fruit. Let me give you an example, right? Let's say for me at the start of 2023, I said I wanted to read more. Sounds good on paper, I've written it down. Weeks go by, months go by, quarters go by, and I am actually planning, but I'm not incorporating the reading goal. And although my day seems structured, maybe I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm exercising, praying, I am watching all these inspirational YouTube videos. That's another thing that I'm going to talk about, the overconsumption of inspirational content. But anyway, I digress. You're doing all these things that seem right, but now it's June, it's halfway through the year, you haven't even read one book. why is that? It's because what you prioritized was just being structured. It was just to be strict. But then your wider goals that you actually set at the start of the year have not been considered. They do not complement your plans at all. And that's how you end up in June with not reading that even one book. Instead, the successful person who does manage to hit that goal by the end of 2023 says at the start of 2023, again, I want to start reading more books. So then now they're planning their quarter from their Q1 from January to March. They say, okay, cool, within this quarter, since my goal, my very vague goal, might I add, is to read more, it means in Q1, I challenge myself to read 3 books or 2 books, whatever it may be, right? But now you've gotten to a place where your plans, like your quarterly plans, are actually complementing or at least considering your wider goals. You then have to break this goal into like actionable steps. So for example, I'm going to take the first 6 weeks of Q1 to read this book in particular. And then the last 6 weeks of that quarter, I'm going to read this book. Point is, in your quarterly plans, your monthly plans, your weekly plans, and your daily plans, you just have to keep reminding yourself, okay, what are my actual wider goals and how can I split this up to be able to, by the end of the year, be able to say, okay, I actually took that goal off. I actually read more and it wasn't that difficult. I just had to ensure that my plans were goal centered. Because in all honesty, you're going to find it very, 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 very difficult to smash your goals and to reach your goals if your plans do not consider them. This is a really, really important and I guess easy kind of way to mitigate those issues surrounding maybe like just not being sure of what to plan for your next month, not being sure of what to actually plan for your next quarter, for your next week, for your next day. Ensuring that they are goal centered and you're like reverse engineering those goals is gonna save you so much headache. You won't just be twiddling your thumbs thinking, what should I plan? Like genuinely just like not knowing what to plan mitigates that. Now the last thing, I know it sounds counterproductive, but the idea here is to be reasonable over being rational. And I had actually learned this in the book that I had set myself to read for this quarter, which was The Psychology of Money. I can't recommend it enough. I'm gonna have to do a video on what I learned about it. The book basically talks about how as humans we just make very, very, very rational plans. It makes sense. We like things to be logical. We like our Excel sheets. We like the way it automates things for us. It tells us that if we save 2,000 per month in this pot, then by the end of the year we'll have this much. You know, the objective truth that it gives us. We love rational plans. However, we don't live in a world that is rational. There are things that happen that we just don't consider. I've tried to implement this idea in my plans now, right? Especially for like long-term planning. I have to make space or make room for error, which is actually something that Morgan speaks about in the book, like making room for error, making room for like other life events or just other things that can happen. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like something that's happening directly in your life. It could just be things as well that just happen in the economy that could inevitably affect the market that you're operating in, that can just inevitably shift or change the predicted outcome that you had from the outset. Let's even take the idea of like wanting to read a couple of books in a quarter. What a rational, logical person would do, one may say they're crazy, is take the amount of words in a book, let's say 300, and then divide that by the amount of days there is in a month if they wanted to read that book in a month. And they would find that they need to read 10 pages every single day for 30 days in order to complete that book. You may go on a holiday for 2 days during that month where you don't pick up that book. You may get to a point maybe when you're reading and you're really, really, really engrossed in this book and you read maybe 16 pages or 15 pages. What I did, for example, when I was reading my books for Q3, is instead of giving myself 4 weeks to read this book, I'm actually going to give myself an extra 2 weeks because I might be going on holiday in September. I'm still a contract at the end of the day. I'm working full time. Still got my assignment, which is actually due in September, so I knew it was going to be quite hectic. So I just had to consider all those other like life events that I even know that are coming up, let alone other ones that can shock me. So instead of saying I'm going to read 10 pages every single day for 30 days, I kind of spread that out over 5 weeks, like 5.5 weeks instead. Because there were days that I read a lot more than 10 pages in a day, and there were days that I read maybe 8 pages instead of 10 pages or 9 pages. Giving yourself that leeway, making room for error, whether that means you to extend this plan or this goal by an extra week. Just ensure it is more reasonable than it is rational. So guys, that is the end of this video. Those are my 3 points. I'll just quickly list them again. So firstly, plan to plan. Set out time every week that you just automate now. Every week you spend 10 minutes on a Sunday evening, 6 p.m. to just plan out your following week. Do that the same for your days and for your months and your quarters. The second thing we discussed is goal-centered planning, so we don't end up in a situation where we're structured, we're disciplined, etc., but we get to the end of the year and there's not been much growth in the goals that we wanted to attain. The second thing as well that this can mitigate is us like twiddling our thumbs and just thinking, I don't know what to plan, I'm wasting time, because what am I planning for? If you have goals and if you have goal-centered plans, then you can mitigate that issue. And the final thing we discussed was being reasonable over being rational, which may sometimes sound counterproductive, but will ensure that you don't beat yourself up when maybe you don't meet that very logical, objective goal that you set before. Consider different life events as well. And I think the most important thing, it just makes it more likely for you to actually achieve that goal. Whether it takes a week more, 2 weeks more, whatever, you still manage to hit it. So those are my tips. Those are my 3 tips that I think are quite simple to take on board. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Anything that you feel like is natural, let me know. I don't mind tussling. Other hacks, other ideas, other tips for planning as well, let me know, and I can like research them and discuss them here on this channel as well. But essentially, I'm very grateful that you got to this point at the end of the video, because it was not easy. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.